KILR Killer Games.
Hello gamers, simmers, and pilots, and welcome to the Chicago tour of Microsoft Flight Simulator 1. Now, unlike the other series that I'm doing with Flight Simulator, which is the World Tour, this one is very limited. We'll go over that here. First of all, I want to explain how I've got this working here. Some of you might be trying to run this on an emulator and are getting nothing but a gray screen and are probably wondering, wait, how do I get this in color? Okay, so that's what I want to show you. I want to show you what I'm actually using here. So I'm using PC emulator, which is PCem, and it's version 14, or it's version 1.4. I just V14 basically. Now let me show you the settings that I've got. Okay, so when you're configuring the actual PC that you need in PCem, this is what you need to set it for. IBM XT, this should come up as default. If not, change it to this. 640 kilobytes. For your monitor, CGA, but you got to do one more step, because otherwise you'll just get black and white. You got to go here, and you have to make sure this is composite. It will by default go there to RGB. You're not going to get color that way. It's going to be black and white. So you have to change it to composite. And one last thing is change your floppy drives to 5.25 at 360K. Now, that's your list of what is actually there, but select that one. That one for sure will work with the Flight Simulator 1 disk image. And you can get that from the old Flight Simulator Vault. That's what it's called. I can give you the link in the description. And that's it. That is all that you need. Alright, so now that we've gone over what you need to get this up and running, let's go ahead and talk about what is actually available in Microsoft Flight Simulator 1.0. This here is the map for the SubLogic Flight Simulator 2 for the Commodore 64. But what I've done is I've gone through here and altered this to show you exactly what's available. You've got Merrill C. Meigs, Chicago Midway, O'Hare, Kankakee, and University of Illinois Willard. That's it. In the Chicago area, this is all there is. All of these VORs are here. So you got Danville, Roberts, Pontiac. Bloomington is not there. I erased it. Kankakee, although that VOR doesn't work. Peotone, Chicago Heights, Joliet, DuPage, and Chicago O'Hare. And I tested all of this. I tested all the VORs. I went to all the airports as far as the XY coordinates are concerned. I don't know why DuPage is sitting there. I don't know why Joliet is sitting there, because the airport's not there. So I guess, you know, if you want to do some IFR flying, it just can go to the VORs, or maybe they didn't have time to put it in. I'm thinking they didn't have room to put stuff in. And right here is here's the list. So I whited out everything That was not there. I don't know if this ILS works or not. That was one thing I didn't check. Now, with that being said, I did check the other areas for Microsoft Flight Simulator 1. So, New York is there. I found John F. Kennedy. I think I went to LaGuardia and there wasn't anything there. So, New York is there. Los Angeles International, and it's got Vanoise, and it's got like two of the other airports just north of Los Angeles, and Seattle Tacoma is there, and there's like two other airports just north of it that are also there. Out of those other three areas, there might be another airport or two on the map, but I have not gone through those areas to find out exactly what's there. But that is what we're going to be doing on this series. So for the Chicago tour, we're going to be going through the Chicago map and hitting each we'll hit each of the airports, but we'll also navigate and use the VORs. So that way you can see that those VORs actually are operational and do work. But you'll also notice that there won't be any airports around that area. So, with that said, we are going from Meigs to Chicago O'Hare. So that is going to be our first trip. And we're sort of kind of going to be following what we did with the World Tour. We just won't be landing at those airports because there's nowhere place to land. So, like on the next flight, we'll fly to DuPage, we'll fly to Joliet, and we'll fly over here to Chicago Heights, and then we'll come back to and land at Chicago Midway. So it'll be similar to what we're doing on the World Tour, but it won't be exact. It's the best I can do to try to get this to match up with it. But once we're done with the Chicago tour, we'll do a New York tour, and we'll do a Los Angeles tour and a Seattle tour. I think I might do it in that order. Do the east side, then do the west side. And that's it. I don't think there's any other coverage in here except for those four areas. Scenery discs do not work with Flight Simulator 1. The option, which I believe is Control E or even just E, doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. What else here? Another thing to be aware of is that the controls on here for the function keys are completely mixed up. Kind of. It just takes a little bit to get used to. So if you have like a reference card that says like your throttle is F1, F2, F3, F4, no, not through this. It's not mapped correctly. So I'll explain how this works. When you start with F1 and go every odd one, those are your flaps. So F1 is flaps up, all the way up. F3 is 1 degree of flaps. F5 is 2 degrees. F7, 3 degrees. I think they call it something else, but you know what I mean. It's like your first step, second step, third step. And F9 is full flaps. So it's every odd one. So in between those keys are your throttles. So F2 is full throttle. At the other end, F10 is cut throttle. And then F4 is throttle up. So is F6. I don't know what that is. F8 is throttle down. So if you want to mess around with this old simulator, write those down. I have it like on a little notepad, notepad as in on the computer, on a small window just below the emulator window. So that way I've got an easy place to look for it. You're going to want to do auto coordination because the rudders don't quite work the way they're supposed to. Again, I think it's a mapping issue. So 0 is left rudder. The enter key should be right rudder. It doesn't work. And the period next to it doesn't work. Figure that, maybe does that work? No. It could be another key on the keyboard somewhere. I don't know. I haven't looked for it. I don't think it's all that important. But other than that, let's kind of go over what we see here. I don't know if you can see my... Oh, yes, you can. You can see my mouse here. This is good. So we've got the fuel here. You know, what's interesting, too, is the 5 airports that are listed for Chicago are the 5 airports that have the fuel box. So all the other airports that we erased that aren't in there are just the other airports that didn't have fuel boxes. So those 5, the only 5 available are the ones that had the fuel box in Flight Simulator 2, whether it was SubLogic or Microsoft. So that's an interesting thing. So you got your compass here, your OMI lights. I'm going to assume if this is here, then the ILS works. We'll find out when we get to Champaign. You've got one comm radio. You've got one nav radio. You don't have nav 2. Transponder, which that does nothing. Your time. VOR 1. That is all you get, is just 1. This here, which is RPMs. Why? It'd be nice if there was just another VOR here, but then again, there's only 5 airports to go to in Chicago, so I guess you don't really need a second VOR. Altimeter, your vertical speed indicator, here's your compass, horizon indicator, knots, which is stuck here, I don't know why, and your turn indicator. But yeah, so let's hit escape. This will get you into the edit mode, and all of these user modes here, if you start with 0, it will put you right on Meigs field, and each of the other user modes will start off with something different. So like one will take you to New York, Los Angeles, Seattle. Some will like there's a couple I think that take you into the Europe 1917 game, and a couple where you're already in the air flying, probably like a landing scenario. So that's what user mode does. It automatically goes to 10 when you start going in there and changing things around. So like what I did is I put in 1 for reality mode. You got your north and east positions. Pardon me. These north and east positions match up with what's on the Flight Simulator 2 map. And even when I selected all the airports and tried to pull them up, it did place the plane in the spot that they should be if you look at the map, but there just wasn't anything there. So then you got all of this here, and then you've got your time, your season. You can put in clouds and winds, you know, just like Flight Simulator 2. And that's it. Now, another problem that you might notice is that the graphics are horrible. And I don't mean what you see immediately on your screen. I'm talking about what's out here, out the window. I was going to say view screen. Like this line, you're like, what the heck is this? The lines, the roads, they just go all over the place. This is like a literally, it's almost as if the simulator was rushed out the door without it being finished. Gee, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's like every game nowadays is rushed out the door and it has bugs and it hasn't been fully tested. Yeah, when we start flying this, you're gonna see exactly just how bad and ugly it looks. Now, is it because it's running on an emulator? I don't know. I mean, technically with the emulator, it's running off of the BIOS. I mean, it's supposed to be emulating the actual machine. So if we played it on an actual IBM XT machine, I would think it would be doing the same exact thing as it's doing here. The only way to know is to actually try it on an IBM XT machine. The only person I can think of that would have it would be LGR, Lazy Game Reviewer. I'm sure he's got an IBM XT. I'm sure in his stash of games, I'm sure he's got Flight Simulator 1. So, if you know LGR, or if LGR is actually watching this video, hey, comment, let me know if this does the same exact thing on a real machine. Because I don't think I'm going to be buying one. Not when I can be spending my money on the Flight Simulator stuff. Anyway. Well, yeah, let me show you the map. Numlock, or numerical lock, is your map. So when you start off, you're almost at the opposite end of the runway. Plus minus will bring out, zoom in, zoom out. But you can see you're like halfway through here. So if you start up the game and you start flying and wonder why it says splash, that's why. I think it says splash, or it says, I'm not sure if you crash off the runway or not. Not something I tested. But look at some of these lines. Like this thing goes like what is that? You know, it's a mess. But you can see when you zoom out, there is the island for Meigs Field. Then you get this blue thing. I don't know what this is. You could imagine that it's a river. There's Midway. And O'Hare is up here somewhere. You've got these lines here that represent the roads in the Chicago area. And you can see Lake Michigan comes down here, and then you got this, whatever that is. And yeah, so a road that goes south. But you'll notice that as we move, the lines go all over the place. So what we're going to do is we're going to start up, we're going to turn around, and make sure that we come back and take off from runway 36. So that way we can do it the classic way, the way it's done on most of the other simulators. All right, scroll lock will get us back here. And now we're going to go ahead and turn on the airplane, which is M. M1 turns off the mags. M2 does right. M3, or I'm sorry, that was left. M3 is right. M4 is both. M5 is start. Now you can just go to M5 and start, and it's just fine. All right, so if you remember, F4 is throttle up, F8 is throttle down. So I'm gonna start moving here. The 4 and the 6 on the numerical keypad is still right and left. See how the lines are kind of all over the place? Like here is the taxiway, what should be a taxiway. It's kind of hard to tell. Okay, now we're going completely off the taxiway. You see how those lines are just doing all that crazy stuff? It will do that in the 3D mode also. Can't even see anything there. You can see the fuel box. So here we go. See? So you can kind of see the lines here. Like here's the taxiway, and then there's lines just all over the place here. I've been testing this out. I actually did some recordings of it and just decided I was just going to toss those and start a whole new recording because I felt there was a lot of research I needed to do on this before doing an actual video that I'm going to put up on the channel. Like the graphical glitches, for example. Is it just the emulator? I don't know. I've seen a couple other videos on YouTube, and they had the same issue. They also looked bad. If you go to the old Flight Simulator Vault, it will also say about, it will also talk about the artifacts and just say just ignore them. It's a little hard to ignore them. You'll see. I was beginning to wonder if I was on and that sure doesn't look like we're lined up, but that's the center line. So if you consider this, it is kind of in the center there. And then there's the edge of the runway, and there's the edge of the taxiway. There's nothing on this side. So yeah, it's kind of a mess. And scroll lock, and then your numerical keypad, so scroll lock and 2 will allow us to look behind us. Again, look at the lines. They're just kind of all over the place. Alright, let's go ahead and go full throttle. Oh, actually, we want to set our navs. And also check the the radios. Okay, so COM is going to be C plus minus for the whole numbers there. So it's going to be 121. Now CC will do your decimal. We're going to change that to 3. There we go. Mixed field information X-ray. 1700 Zulu. Weather, nothing. Visibility 10, nothing. Temperature 72. Wind 0. Altimeter 29.95. Landing and departing runway 36. Device controller that you have X-ray. Alright, now let's go ahead and tune in the ATIS for Chicago O'Hare, which is 135.15. Press C once, and then we can change this. And here's O'Hare. They got Bravo. Landing, departing, runway 4. Yep, we're not going to land on that one. With as bad as how these lines go around, just pick a runway and land. Okay, now let's set our nav radio. That's going to be just like the comm radio. So in this, by the way, it's 113.9. So in plus 113. Oh, and it's already on 0.9. So let's change the VOR. That's going to be V and then plus minus. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Okay, there's a horizontal. You see the horizontal indicator? I'm going to assume that this does have ILS capability. Otherwise, I don't think it'd be there. Okay. We want to go at a heading of 308 pretty much. All right. Let's give this a try. F2 full throttle. Everything just went dark. What did we do? Break it? Huh. Okay, well, apparently you don't want to go full throttle. That will kill it. Okay, well, we're back from that ordeal. So I've moved this back here to runway 36. And you can see that it's trying to write 36. There's a 3 here, and well, that's supposed to be a 6. See, you can see what's supposed to be. But look at the lines. Look at how all these lines are just all going south. It's like it took all the lines that should be up here and threw them down this way. Yeah, like I said, it's an ugly mess. All right, I turned reality mode off. I just turned it off. With a simulator that is just this messed up, probably don't want that on. All right, let's go ahead and increase our throttle. Yeah, I know going full throttle technically breaks the engine. I didn't think it was going to be that sophisticated with Flight Simulator 1, but apparently it is. Try to get ourselves up in the air here. Okay, we are airborne. And the island's getting flooded. Alright, G is for landing gear. If you take a look here, it says down. We'll hit G. Now it says up. So now our landing gear is up. go ahead and turn. Do you see what the graphics are doing? See, you almost have to fly with your instruments. The instruments seem to be working for the most part. Like, you can tell that you're still turning here. Okay, let's bring your engines down here. We don't want to go too fast. Okay, so the airport up here is O'Hare. Remember those gray lines? Those are the roads here. There's that river. I'm assuming that's a river. I'm not going to try looking at it on a map, but so this was like a serious simulator back in the day. Well, I guess consider if you compare this with the first SubLogic one, yeah, that one's kind of, I mean, this is an improvement over that. And I don't have that recorded for this channel yet. When I can get that set up, I will. And that way we can take a look at that. I'm not even sure what airports would be available on that one. I found a copy of it on eBay. They wanted like over $100 for it. No. I could bring the throttle down, like, seriously. Check this out. It's like all the way down here. You do have trim, so that's good. You can use that. You've got your carb heat, so you can play this during the winter and use your carb heat. Heat up your engine. It is still going up. Okay, we're going to start putting our flaps down. F3 is that first degree of flaps there. This is the flaps, so it's already gone down one notch. And we'll do our landing gear. That's definitely bringing us down. We can't save the game, so we'll have to use the coordinates to type in our... Oh, actually, we'll just write down the coordinates, and then we can type them in, and we should be in the same spot that we left off. Otherwise, you would just have to type in the coordinates for the airport. We'll see if I can get this thing landed. I didn't have much luck the first time I was trying this. Look at this gray line. It's like, what is this line doing here? It's kind of hard to tell where the runway's at. We just got lines in front of us here. Yeah, we're beginning to go down a little too fast. We got some more throttle going here. That was definitely not coming from the Flight Simulator 1. That's a little too sophisticated of a sound effect. Take a look at our map. Well, we're sort of approaching some. Look at that mess. Blah. So I think we have a runway somewhere over here. I think like right there, I think is one. Whoa. My finger was resting on the keyboard. So as we're turning and it's like the graphics. Okay. So the runway is there in front of us, if you can see it. There's like a little hole. It's like right here. Although we're kind of moving off to the side here. We're still moving. Why are we still moving that way? Bring our power down. Okay, yeah, it looks like it's sort of working. I don't know if we're going to land right on the runway. Just take it gently. We got it. There we go. We landed. Cool. All right. We'll turn off the engine, which doesn't actually turn it off. I've noticed Flight Simulator 2 has the same problem. You got to turn off the engines, and it doesn't really turn it off. All right. Anyway, we are here at Chicago O'Hare, and let's go ahead and we'll make a note of our coordinates. Just hit escape here, and there's our coordinates right there. And we can even reference what time. 12:24, so we can start off at the same time if we want to. And well, that's pretty much it. Hey, you know what? If I turn this to reality, oh, that's right. If we had reality mode on, it probably would have turned off the engines. Now that I think about it, yeah, there we go. All right. Well, thanks for joining me on this very old simulator. And well, we have a duplicate flight of this on the other flight simulators, so go ahead and check those out. I'm sure they'll be a little better. In the meantime, there'll be more flights with Flight Simulator 1. Like I said, we are going to tour through the 5 airports that are in this Chicago area, along with the VORs, and we'll move on from there. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next flight. If you enjoyed this flight and trip back in time, then you might enjoy some of these other videos I made of the same flight. This is just a small sample of the other simulators I'm also using for the World Tour, so you can check out how things compare there if you'd like. Or perhaps you have fond memories of one of them and just want to see more. There will be more flights, so remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around in the skies.